Call to order the Dickinson City Commission for the proceeds of building condemnations. Let the record show that 4 commissioners are present. 1 commissioner is en route. He will be here shortly, Commissioner Oderman. Before we move into proceedings, I need to swear in both witnesses, Lieutenant Hansen and Building Inspector Blaine Dukart. Please raise your hands. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
As we move forward, the city will present evidence through exhibits and testimony. First item up, 8 a.m. is the property at 229 South Main, Joshua Kilwine, City Attorney Wenko.
This is going to be a quasi-formal proceeding. We haven't done one of these in a while for the city, so feel free at any time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We do want to make sure that you're fully informed in making these determinations here today. So as President Decker indicated, the first one up we have this morning is Joshua Kilwine with the property located at 219 South Main. So we'll begin with regard to that property. Mr. Dukart, can you please state your name for the record?
Blaine Dukart.
What is your current occupation with the city, Mr. Dukart?
Building Inspector 1 and Code Enforcement for the Building and Codes Department.
How long have you been with the city in that capacity?
2 weeks short of 2 years.
And as a building Inspector 1 with the City of Dickinson, what do your specific duties involve?
I inspect property throughout construction for the building department, and I also enforce the City of Dickinson Municipal Code to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our community.
To your knowledge, does the municipal code address what happens with properties that are out of compliance, dilapidated, or run down?
Yes, it does.
Can you give me an example of what would deem a property to be out of compliance?
Perfect example is the water is shut off on a property. It becomes uninhabitable, and from that phase forward we move into condemnation if there are structural issues with it. So we request to do an inspection of the property to see if it's habitable, and then we move on from there.
Please explain to me what is considered to be a dangerous structure by city code.
There are a lot of requirements in there, but there are a lot of things that will deem it a dangerous structure. Number one, anything that's structurally unsound in a building, so trusses or bearing walls that are out of compliance or structurally unsafe. Exterior holes in the property's roof or exterior walls, so that also becomes unsafe. No water makes it uninhabitable because it becomes unsanitary. A lot of different factors, but those are the main ones.
What does the code provide happens in the event a structure is deemed to be a dangerous structure?
We placard the structure itself. We will perform a visual inspection and take photographs and document any things that are out of what's necessary for a structure that would be safe, and then we placard it. We notify the owner that it's being placarded, and that makes the property uninhabitable, and it also deems the property that nobody can enter the property without our permission.
Okay. And is it a fair statement that the code provides that in the event a structure is deemed to be dangerous, it can either be The city has three choices. It can be repaired, vacated, or demolished.
That's correct.
And the purpose of today's proceedings is to determine whether these structures need to be demolished. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Dukart, we're going to discuss the first property more particularly. Are you familiar with the residence located at 219 South Main in Dickinson?
Yes, I am.
Who is the current owner of this property?
Joshua Kilwine.
How do you know that?
From our research for the register, what we have on file with the City of Dickinson Building Department, utilities, and title search.
Did your office notify the property owner of today's proceeding?
Yes, we did.
Okay. How did you do that, sir?
A certified letter.
I'm going to turn your attention to what's been marked as Exhibit A in your packet in front of you there. Do you recognize that exhibit, sir?
Yes, I do.
What is that exhibit?
That is a letter to Joshua Kilwine dated December 28, 2021.
And this letter was sent certified mail?
Yes, it was.
What was the purpose of this letter?
Notice of hearing for the hearing today.
Now, Mr. Dukart, can you please explain or please tell me when your department was first made aware of the concerns with the property located at 219 South Main?
Actually, in 2015, the issues began with exterior dilapidation, namely a hole in the roof of the building.
To your knowledge, how did that hole in the roof in the building come to be?
From what we understand in past research and context, there was a actual chimney in that spot that was removed.
And looking at the PowerPoint over here, Mr. Dukart, we see the structure identified in 2016 as well as 2021.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you happen to know why the water was shut off in January of 2015?
Usually that's a request by the owner.
And what did your office do in response to being notified that the water was shut off?
Generally, we'll try to contact the owner of the property and let them know that at that point it's uninhabitable.
And what makes it uninhabitable?
The lack of water makes it unsanitary, so there's no potable water in the house.
And to your knowledge, as of right now, what is the status of the other utilities on the property?
Actually, the electrical and the gas are both disconnected from the house. They're actually cut off from the house.
When you say cut off, are you talking physically?
Physically disconnected, yes.
So after the initial contact that you had with the property owner, what was the next correspondence you sent to the property owner and when?
September 23rd of 2020, a letter to the owner requesting access for a structural inspection.
And what was the purpose of the structural inspection?
Is for our department to determine if the structure was unsafe because of the hole in the ceiling, so that we could see what type of interior damage or decay had occurred.
Did you receive a response to your request for a structural inspection?
No, I did not.
What did you do after receiving no response?
On January 5th of 2021, another letter was sent to the owner requesting access for structural inspection, and since we had no contact, we were going to begin the condemnation process, and we placarded the house at that time.
Okay. So just so we're clear for a timeline, Mr. Dukart, from January of 2015 to January of 2021, what improvements were made to the property?
No improvements made. The condition of the home worsened.
And you said that you sent a follow-up letter in January 5th of 2021?
Yes, that's correct.
And remind me again, what was the purpose of that letter, sir?
That was to request, once again, access to the structure for an inspection and also to begin the condemnation process.
Did you receive a response to this request?
No, I did not.
At some point, were you able to complete a structural inspection of the property?
Yes, finally on January 28th of 2021, the owner contacted our department to try to set up a structural inspection, and that didn't occur for 2 more months, where it worked out for the owner and ourselves.
Okay. And what did you discover after completing the structural inspection?
Our department completed an inspection of the home and the detached structure, and they were both found to be structurally unsafe. There were main parts of the structure itself were jeopardized.
And after you determined that the structure was jeopardized, as the term you referred to, what did you do at that point?
On March 22nd of 2021, a condemnation letter was sent to the owner, and that was to notify them that the building was to be demolished.
And I'll turn your attention to Exhibit B. Is that a copy of the letter that was sent?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And in that letter, was there a time frame in which the property owner was to complete this on his own?
Yes, actually, the owner was given 45 days according to the letter.
Okay. And did you receive a response from Mr. Kilwine at that point?
No, we did not receive any more contact from the owner. I attempted several times after that letter to contact the owner.
Since June of 2021, have you had any contact with the property owner, Joshua Kilwine?
No, I have not.
Looking to Exhibit C, Mr. Dukart, would that be a fair recollection or depiction of your notes regarding the correspondence and whatnot with Mr. Kilwine?
That would be very accurate.
To your knowledge, Mr. Dukart, how many complaints has your office received regarding this property?
As far as this property, mainly complaints from neighbors about the exterior of the property, as far as maintenance of grass and weeds and vehicles that were left on the property.
So in other words, neighbors were complaining that the property was unkept?
Here, when we did our interior inspection, that's actually the hole in the roof from the inside, and as you can see, the lumber actually was already decayed in there and rotted out. And then the lower left hand is also showing that it's not a very good photograph. On the very upper side of that belly is that chimney. And then the lower right is another hole that has started over the years in the north side of the home and could have been started from just decay of the shingles or a rodent. It's hard to say.
Turning specifically to the photograph up in the upper left-hand corner, what are we seeing in that picture?
That is the detached structure, and that's a photograph showing that the trusses or the rafters were cut out to install a garage door opener. So basically all the bearing of the rafters in there were jeopardized, so that structure is completely unsafe.
And the top left is the bottom structure, correct? The detached garage?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what are we seeing in the upper right-hand corner?
You're seeing all the ceiling coming down on the inside of the home, and all the ceiling tile, the rafters, all the walls inside. Most of the timber is rotted out because of the moisture that was brought in from the open hole in the roof. All the wiring and plumbing has been stripped, and then the lower right hand side is just another exterior photo showing the condition of the roof, once again with two holes in it.
To your knowledge, Mr. Dukart, is this the current condition of the property?
Yes, it is.
Based on what you know of the structure and, well, let me ask another question first, Mr. Dukart. So for the past 5-6 years, there has been little to no repair or remedial action taken on behalf of this property owner, correct?
To my knowledge, no. There's been no remodeling or structurally advances in the home itself.
Okay. And based on your observations and your inspection of the property, has your department made a determination as to whether you deem this property a dangerous structure?
Yes, we have deemed it a dangerous structure.
And what is your department's recommendation for this property here today in front of this board?
The building department for the city of Dickinson recommends demolition.
I have no more questions for Mr. Dukart, and I believe Mr. Kilwine is not present at this point, so at that point, any mortgage or lien holders that are present would want to make a statement. I don't believe that there are. Then I would turn it back over to the commission to ask Mr. Dukart whether or not he has any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Commissioners, do you have any questions for any of the witnesses? Any questions for Mr. Dukart? Is there no questions from the commissioners? Again, we'll defer to the property owner. If there is anyone present representing the property, they may come forward. Present any evidence to the contrary of our witness. Are there any mortgage lien holders present? They too may come forward, present evidence, and make a statement. Seeing no mortgage or lien holders are present, we'll proceed with closing arguments from the city attorney.
Mayor Decker, we are going to call one more witness, and that's going to be Lieutenant Matt Hansen. So I will have him take a seat next to Mr. Dukart.
Okay.
Lieutenant Hansen, good morning.
Good morning.
Just as for some formality questions here, you are a lieutenant with the Dickinson Police Department?
That is correct.
And what are your specific duties with regard to the lieutenant position with the Dickinson Police Department?
My current assignment is I am in charge of our patrol staff, so all 4 of our patrol shifts. I'm also in charge of our SWAT team, amongst other smaller duties, one of which would be liaison to the city prosecutor's office.
And as part of in your capacity as the patrol supervisor, do you then see and deal with reports related to incidences that are reported to the department?
That's correct.
Okay. And as part of this proceeding today, were you asked to run a report regarding the criminal activity at 219 South Main?
Yes.
And what were your results, just for the commission's sake?
So I ran that 219 South Main. I ran it back 10 years. We did only have 2 contacts to where our patrol staff or investigations had any contact at that 219, but we did have 2 contacts, one being in March of 2019 and the other being October of 2020.
And what were those contacts?
The one from March of 2019 was reported as a vandalism, but when I actually looked into the report, patrol officers that had responded on the scene deemed it as more of like a civil matter. There was individuals who were supposedly doing work on the property and then took items as payment because they weren't being paid, and that's what the officers deemed it as. So it was a kind of a civil matter. The October of 2020 was actually a city code enforcement that was due to unlawful storage of kind of an abandoned vehicle situation. So part of our duties as the patrol officers is we'll actually try to go out and issue that enforcement from the code enforcement to the property owner, and that's what that contact would have been.
And did you issue that?
I believe when I look at this, there wasn't a lot of information, but when I look at that one, it looks like they did issue the code enforcement on that.
I have no more questions for Lieutenant Hansen, and I would turn it over to the commission whether they have any questions for him.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Any questions from commissioners for Lieutenant Hansen? There are no questions from the commission for Lieutenant Hansen. I would then move to see if there are any representatives of the property owner that wish to come forward and question the witness. If there are any mortgage or lien holders present, they may come forward and question the witness. Seeing that there is no one representing this property, we'll move to closing arguments for the city attorney.
Mr. President, Commissioners, I think the evidence that's been presented today is pretty clear. It's pretty succinct. Since January of 2015, there's been little to no improvement on this property. You can see by the photographs that the structure is just, it's run down. It would take a major overhaul to get this property into compliance. The property owner has done very little to be in contact with the city's building department. The structure is an eyesore. It's run down. It's in need of major structural repair. And I would recommend and ask this commission to affirm the building department's recommendation to move forward with demolition. I feel as if the city doesn't make a determination to do this, we've seen no actions by the property owner that's going to give us any reassurances that this structure is going to be coming into compliance anytime soon. And so for that, we would ask on behalf of the city building department, we would ask that this structure be demolished, and if you find it should be demolished.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Are there any closing arguments from the property owner? No closing arguments from the property owner. Commission, discussion. Do you have any further questions, comments? Being no discussion from the commission, recommendation from the city attorney and the city building and code enforcement department, the recommendation to affirm demolition.
I would move to follow through with the city attorney's recommendation.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sobeluk to affirm demolition of the property located at 219 South Main.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Commissioner Sobeluk.
Aye.
Commissioner Frederick.
Aye.
Commissioner Walla.
Aye.
Commissioner Oderman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries for demolition.
And then, Mr. President, Commissioners, we do have the next property slotted at 8:45, so I think we just have to take a quick break, and then we will jump back into it.
We'll recess till 8:45.
Yeah, I was last to move in last week. Well, this is like my third, well, I was up at
long is this building's about 20 years old?
I will call the Dickinson City Commission meeting for condemnation back to order. The next property up is property located at 243 2nd Street Southwest. As noted, property owned by Justin Ducart. First item up, city will present evidence through exhibits and testimony.
And Commissioners, during the break, I did hand out an additional kind of a police report checklist. That is not for this property, actually. That is going to be actually for 1520 West Villard. So just put that in the packet with regard to property number 3. All right, Mr. Ducart, remember you're still under oath. Okay. Mr. Ducart, are you familiar with the residence located at 243 2nd Street Southwest in Dickinson?
Yes, I am.
Who is the current property owner?
Justin Ducart,
And how were you able to confirm that?
with records on file with the City of Dickinson and the Utility Department and the Registrar's Office and title search.
Did your office provide notice to Mr. Ducart about today's proceeding?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and returning to Exhibit A, is that a copy of the hearing notice that was sent to Mr. Ducart?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And Mr. Ducart is present here today, so I'm going to assume that he received it. Now, Mr. Ducart, let's talk specifically with regard to this property. When did the building department become involved with this property?
September 1st of 2005, an original building permit was issued for a remodel at this residence.
And would that be what is marked as Exhibit B in your packet there?
Yes, it would.
And the purpose of that building permit was for a remodel, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. After that building permit was issued, when did issues begin to arise again?
We sent a notice out, and that notice was not until November 6th of 2014 to let the owner know that 2 building permits that there were 2 expired building permits on the property, and that the owner needed to contact us at that time.
Okay. And prior to 2014, and I'm specifically referring to Exhibit C, your office sent Mr. Ducart multiple letters informing him of the condition of the property, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so just in looking at Exhibit C, March 27th of 12, the department had indicated that there were various issues with storage of vehicles on the property. Is that right?
That's correct.
What does the notice also say with regard to rubbish on the property?
That's part of our property maintenance, so sanitation and accumulation of rubbish or garbage. So that's all part of our code enforcement that is in our department.
To your knowledge, were these issues addressed?
Some of the issues are addressed.
Now let's turn to the next page on Exhibit C there. In November 6th of 2014, this is the notice that you were referring to a few moments ago with regard to the expired building permits?
That's correct.
And what was the purpose of this notice, sir?
To let them know that, or let the owner know that the building permits were expired and that the owner needed to either reapply for a building permit for a new one or ask for an extension, but at that point, it would have to be a new permit.
Okay. And then going to the third letter that is in that packet, December 4th of 2014, what was the purpose of that correspondence?
That is actually a letter given to the owner to let them know that we deemed the structure unfit for human occupancy. So we were not able to conduct a full inspection based on denied access at that time. So
when did you complete the partial inspection?
partial inspection was completed on December 2nd of 2014.
And then subsequently, this letter dated December 4th, 2014 was sent to Mr. Ducart just as a summary of the inspection?
That's correct.
And after the house, after the structure, and now, just so we're clear, we're talking about, there's a residence as well as a detached garage, correct?
That's correct.
Did you inspect both structures?
Yes, I believe so. What the department at that time could inspect.
Okay. And after you were able to complete this partial inspection, what actions did the department take with regard to the residence?
Our department placarded the house and the detached structure.
What does that mean?
That means that there's no access to the structures without contacting us, because it deems them a unsafe structure.
After the house and garage were placarded, were you able to complete a full inspection of the residence and the detached structure?
Yes, on December 23rd of 2014.
And what was the result of that inspection?
Follow-up inspection, a letter was sent out on December 31st letting the property owner know that it was in worse condition.
Was there any remedial efforts taken by the property owner at that time?
No, there was not.
Okay. And that would have been late December of 2014, correct?
That's correct.
And at some point in December of 2014, were these issues sent to the municipal court?
Yes, the municipal court actually requested an update on the property.
Specifically referring to Exhibit D. This is a letter from the building department to Dickinson Municipal Court indicating what?
In reference to the above property, it states that we had full access to the building department, our building department had full access to the property on December 23rd, and we noted some progress on the property, but our department requested Justin to apply for permits by December 31st. Follow-up inspection was conducted on December 31st. Our department noted the property to be in a worsened state, and to date, there had been no attempt made to apply for the proper permits.
And as a result of the involvement with the Dickinson Municipal Court, are you aware that Judge Robert Keogh issued an order requiring Mr. Dukart to clean up his property?
Yes, I am.
And as a result of that, the court ordered him to do it, and you were to go back in and do a follow-up inspection to determine whether that had been completed. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
And specifically referring to Exhibit E, this is the order to show cause document signed by Judge Keogh, correct?
That's correct.
And in this order, it indicates that Mr. Dukart was likely to be held in contempt if he did not comply with the court's order of contempt.
That's correct.
And I'll turn your attention to Exhibit F. And what is Exhibit F, Mr. Dukart?
That is order of contempt by the Stark County Court. So City of Dickinson versus Justin Dukart. It states that the hearing was held before the court on December 18th, 2014, and an order to show cause issued to the defendant required him to show cause why he should not be held in contempt of court for failing to comply with the order of the court dated November 18th, 2014.
And in that order, does it indicate that Mr. Dukart admitted that he was not in compliance with the court's order?
Yes, it does.
To your knowledge, as a result of the proceedings within the municipal court, is Mr. Dukart, through that proceeding as well as through your office, trespassed from the property? Is he trespassed?
Yes, he did.
Now, that occurred in 2014, okay? So when is the next time that this property comes back on your radar?
Actually, not until 2019, and that would be October 28th of 2019, when an application for a building permit by the owner to fix structural issues was requested, filled out an application.
Okay. And looking at Exhibit G, is this a request that was received from Mr. Dukart regarding to allow an additional third party to complete repairs on the property?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then looking at Exhibit H, is that the building permit application submitted by Mr. Dukart?
Yes, it is. That's correct.
And these were submitted late October of 2019?
That's correct.
And once these were submitted, did your office issue a new building permit to Mr. Dukart?
Yes, we did.
And what was the purpose of the building permit?
To fix the structural issues on the detached structure, which is the garage.
Was there any remodeling to be done to the home at that time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. To your knowledge, Mr. Dukart, were the repairs that were identified in the building permit done and completed?
No, they were not.
Was there an extension requested of that 2019 building permit?
Yes, there actually was. There was a request asked for. Building permit extension request was made on October 8th of 2020 to complete the repairs and so that they were able to sell the property.
And turning to Exhibit I, is that part of the extension request that your office received?
Yes, that is.
And according to this request, was that request granted?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and when did that extension end?
On June 1st of 2021, and that was actually listed in there as the final extension.
And so there wasn't, so just so we're clear, so in 2019, there's a building permit issued, there's a request for an extension that, does that push that out to November 25th of 2020?
Yes, it did.
Okay, and then there was another extension that was requested in November 25th of 2020, and that one pushed it out to June 1st of 2021.
That's correct.
Okay. After the, or as the last extension time frame ran, which would have been June 1 of 2021, was there a request for an additional extension to push out that June 1, 2021 date?
There was a request to call in by the owner of the property.
Was that request granted?
No, it was not. It was denied
And why was it denied?
because there had been no progress made on the structure.
After that permit was denied and the extension was denied, what was the next communication or correspondence that you had with the property owner?
We prepared a letter of condemnation. It was sent to the property owner on June 7th of 2021.
I'll have you turn to Exhibit J. Is that a copy of the letter that you was sent to Mr. Dukart?
Yes, it is.
And what was the purpose of this letter, Mr. Dukart?
To let the property owner know that it is now in condemnation and it will continue in condemnation unless there is a circumstance that would change things, as in possibly a sale of the property.
Did you see any improvements or remedial efforts taken by Mr. Dukart after this letter was sent?
No.
Subsequently thereafter, Mr. Dukart, did you send any additional letters to Mr. Dukart?
Yes, on June 17th of 2021, a notice of demolition was sent to Mr. Dukart.
And that is identified in your packet as Exhibit K?
That's correct.
And that was sent certified to Mr. Dukart?
Yes, it was.
And after the demo notice was sent, did you have any follow-up conversations with Mr. Dukart?
Yes, I actually did. On August 30th of 2021, I contacted Mr. Dukart personally by phone, and the conversation was to verify that the owner understood that he only has one option for his property to be repaired and the structures to remain, and that option was to sell the property to a new owner so that a permit may be obtained by that owner and structural repairs made and property brought back into compliance.
And just so we're clear, because that would have meant that Mr. Dukart himself was not going to be getting another permit.
That's correct.
Okay. And has your office received any complaints from neighboring landowners or property owners with regard to this property?
Yes, multiple complaints.
And the substance of those complaints are what?
Suspicious individuals at all hours of the day and night, after the buildings were placarded, people entering the property, in and out of the property.
Mr. Duca, I'm going to have you look at the PowerPoint over here. So if I could have the lights, please. We're seeing the structure in 2012. That is what appears to be it going through some sort of remodeling phase.
That's correct.
Okay, and then in 2021, that's what the structure looks like now, correct?
Yes, that's correct. You can visually see, that's a small photo, but in your packet possibly, the structure, the detached structure on the upper left side, you can see the roof failing from the exterior even. Those trusses were cut out. So that's definitely an unsafe structure.
Would you say, in all deference to Mr. Ducart, that the outside of the property has been cleaned up to some degree from 12 to now?
Yes, it has.
Now, explain to me what we're seeing in the photographs here, starting at the top left and going around.
Okay, on the upper left is miscellaneous steel, wood, household construction items, etc., all over the property in all areas. Again, on the upper right-hand side, same thing, miscellaneous construction and scrap metal, wood items, different vehicles, RVs, campers, autos that were actually improperly parked and out of compliance on the property. And that lower left, same thing, lower right, same way. Those were taken back when the letters were given, and that's what the violations were for, and that's what the letter was given for, is because of property maintenance, unregistered vehicles, parking that's not allowed, and that pretty well sums up those photos on this slide.
So would you say it's a fair statement that the property was in this condition for many years?
Absolutely.
And again, all due deference to Mr. Ducart, there has been some cleanup to this property on the outside of the property.
That's correct.
Okay, looking at these photographs, Mr. Ducart, what are we seeing in the left photograph?
Okay, the left photograph is the detached structure, and that's a placard on, I believe that's actually on the home structure. That's a placard on there that our department applied when it sent the letter in 2014, and then on the right side, that's actually the detached structure, and that's also placarded.
And
so that's letting everybody know, including the owner, that you're not allowed inside the property.
And so that would have occurred, and we're going all the way back to 2014.
That's correct.
Based on that, has your department ever, quote unquote, removed the placard or changed its position with regard to access to the structure?
We did not remove the placards.
So as of 2014, that yellow placard has been on the property?
Should have been on the property, to my knowledge.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ducart, what are we, again, some older photographs here, but what are we seeing starting from left to right and going around?
Okay, upper left is outside exterior property maintenance, of course, completely out of compliance. That's something that's not allowed, to have construction and or personal items out in the front yard and side yard setbacks. The right side is interior, upper right is interior wiring, etc., hanging in the buildings, so out of compliance, obviously a safety hazard. Lower left is multiple vehicles on the outside, some unregistered, some registered, parked in off to the side, so out of compliance. It's not allowed on properties to be parking everywhere on the property. The lower right side, I believe that is interior of the detached structure on the upper semi-living quarter area, and that doesn't depict the cutouts very well, but it shows the disarray of multiple items.
Okay, Okay, now let's move and jump forward here to 2019. Are we staying the same and similar conditions of the outside property?
We're seeing similar conditions to the outside still. Many items on the outside of the home, registered, unregistered vehicles, construction material.
And so is it a fair statement that from 2014 to 2019, this was, for the most part, the condition of the exterior of the property?
Yes, it was.
And since, more recently, since 2020 or 2021, there has been efforts made to clean up the exterior of the property.
That's correct.
What are we seeing in these photographs?
Okay, the upper left are actually the roof trusses cut out, so it jeopardized the entire integrity of the structure, or the roof for sure of the structure, which could come down and damage everything else in the structure. So that becomes an unsafe structure. On the upper right, same thing, just a different angle of the photograph. Lower left, we're seeing the same thing. The trusses were cut out, so a lot of the plating is gone, the 2x4 reinforcement's gone. And lower right-hand side are multiple items in the detached structure that photographs were taken.
And just so we're clear, Mr. Dukart, these photographs depict the roof in the detached structure, correct?
That's correct.
And again, additional photographs of the outside of the property?
That's correct.
So, Mr. Dukart, again, in all deference to the property owner, would you say that there has been some improvement with regard to the exterior cleanup of the property?
Yes, I would say definitely on the exterior.
With regard to the structural integrity of the detached garage as well as the residence, what are your continued concerns with regard to both?
Well, both are unsafe structures. The structural integrity of the detached structure and the home have been jeopardized. So they're out of compliance, not just unsafe, but also out of compliance.
Specifically, do you recall any specific issues or concerns that you had with the residence with regard to its structural integrity?
Yes, we were able to view the home our department was before we gave the final extension on the building permit in 2021 and in 2020, and there were headers missing from different areas of the home inside for doorway walkthroughs, some components missing on the stairwells. The basement was dirt floor, of course, instead of concrete as today's standards, but wiring and plumbing was basically non-existent throughout the home. There was some wiring, but it was just tore out and hanging. So the condition was basically you'd have to completely renovate the interior of the home.
Mr. Dukart, based on your review of the city's file regarding this property, would you say that it's a fair statement that your department has exhausted all its efforts regarding this particular property?
Yes, that is a fair statement.
And what is your recommendation for the board today?
The building department for the city of Dickinson is recommending demolition of these properties, or these structures on this property.
And that's for the detached garage as well as the residence?
That's correct.
I have no more questions for Mr. Dukart.
Thank you, Mrs. Thank you, Mrs. Winko. At this time, with the procedure, the property owner may ask our witness, the current witness, any questions. Do you have any questions for Mr. Dukart?
No, I don't think I have any questions for him.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Winko, do you have any further witnesses?
No, I do. And just if the commission has any questions for Mr. Dukart, now would be the time.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Blaine Dukart? See no questions at this time.
Then at this time, Mr. President, the city is going to call Lieutenant Matt Hansen. Okay. Lieutenant, you are still sworn in?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Lieutenant, are you familiar with the property located at 243 2nd Street West?
Yes, I am.
How are you familiar with that in your capacity as a lieutenant with the department?
So as a lieutenant of the department, I've been familiar with this property for many years. I started in law enforcement in 2009. So I had many personal dealings with this property as a patrol officer, and then as a patrol sergeant, and then now as a patrol lieutenant also.
What were your involvements with the property as an officer being on patrol?
From the years of, like you've seen from the pictures here, from the years of 2009 till 2014, there was campers that were kept on the property. Certain individuals were living inside those campers, sometimes that had permission from Mr. Dukart, sometimes that did not from the homeowner. Anything from calls for service revolving around disorderly conducts to drug offenses to warrants. I myself have personally served search warrants on the detached structures of this house. I've also helped with probation searches in the detached structures. I've only actually been into the residence side of this house once, and it would have been, I think it was 2012 or 2013 potentially.
Have you yourself had any communication with the property owner in your tenure at DPD?
Yeah, Justin and I have chatted several occasions.
And that would be in your capacity as a patrol officer going to his residence and dealing with those incidences that have been reported?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And as a part of today's proceeding, I had asked you to run a report regarding the criminal activity located at this residence. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, if you turn your attention to what has been marked as Exhibit L. Is this the report that you provided to me, Lieutenant Hansen?
Yes, this is. If I could just give details on
Go ahead.
kind of the complexity of this report. So you're seeing multiple time frames for the commission. You're seeing multiple time frames, and you're seeing multiple different ways that the address is ran. I just want to give clarification. I started the numbers from the beginning of 2015, so January 1 of 2015, which, as you heard from Mr. Dukart, would have been after the condemnation placards were put up on the residence. That's the report you're seeing in front of you. We actually changed our recording systems inside of the Dickinson PD in 2017, so you're seeing different types of printouts from that. And then also with the way that the address is put in there, you have 243 2 Street Southwest and you have 243 2nd Street Southwest. They are the same address, but the way that the dispatching will come out can put them in there. But the numbers equate to since January 1st of 2015 so when I ran this report in September 24th of 2021, our office had responded, that's the Dickinson PD alone, had responded to this residence 121 times.
And according to the report, Lieutenant, we're talking anything from suspicious activity to removing a subject, disorderly conduct, drug-related offenses, trespassing. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, just all around criminal behavior, I guess. It's anything from disorderlies to suspicious to domestics to theft reports.
And to your knowledge, Mr. Dukart is currently trespassed from the property.
Yes.
Did you receive any recent indication that Mr. Dukart had been on the property?
So, in preparation for our hearings today, I was actually informed of last evening at, I think it was 8:15 p.m., give or take. Our office received a phone call that Mr. Dukart and what is believed to be his mother were at the residence last night. He was inside of the detached structure and he was gathering personal belongings, what appeared to be personal belongings, putting them into his vehicle. By the time our patrol officer had responded there was nobody around, nobody in the area at that time.
Lieutenant, based on your, having been a police officer since 2009 with the Dickinson Police Department, would you say that 100 and however many contacts that you had indicated previously is quite a bit for one residence?
like I said, it should be noted, that's only from 2015. If we were to go back further into that, it would have been considerably higher. But yes, from 2015 until current date, 121 contacts from the police department is very high.
I have no more questions for Lieutenant Hansen.
Thank you. Mrs. Wenko, does the property owner have any questions for Lieutenant Hansen?
No, I don't have any questions for him. I have statements I could make, but no questions.
No questions to be asked by the property owner. City Commissioners, any questions for Lieutenant Hansen? Hearing no questions, we'll move to the next item, in which is we have concluded with our questioning of our evidence and witnesses. So the property owner shall present any evidence to the City Commission.
Well, I just want to say that obviously there's a problem, but my neighbors don't like me, so they're just, anytime anybody's on the property, they call in. So, you know, neighbors just call in all the time. Saying whatever for reports, I don't know. And since the property was deemed uninhabitable, I haven't been able to go to fix the property. And I was in jail for a year and a half, and that's when I gave power of attorney to my sister, and I figured she was going to fix the problem, you know, so we could sell the house, and they did nothing to remedy. They got a building permit, didn't do anything about fixing structure problems. And I was in foreclosure twice, and so I spent, my money was going to the bank. They wouldn't take a partial payment, so I had to pay like $8,000 once and over $10,000 the second time to get a house out of foreclosure. So I didn't have the money at the time to do the remodeling, to finish, you know, but now I do. And I just like to give them one more chance to, so I can, my plans are to sell the house, but nobody, you can't get a loan on a condemned property, so nobody's able to buy the property being condemned. So my plans are, you know, to remodel the house and sell it.
Any other comments or evidence you wish to present?
No, sir.
Mrs. Wenko?
I do have a couple questions
for the property owner.
for Mr. Dukart. Mr. Dukart, you'd indicated that you were looking to sell the property, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you not have an offer from Venture Homes a few months ago to sell the property?
It was, well, several months ago, yes, but the properties, I have my life investment in that property, and $50,000 just wasn't enough.
And
The garage costs more than that to build.
okay, so just so we're clear, you had an opportunity to sell the property, chose not to sell the property. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And what remedial efforts have you taken in the last 2 years to bring this property into compliance?
Well, there was nothing I could really do because I was in jail for a year and a half. But I did support the structure. So the Rafters were not, you know, staying on their own. We have supported.
Do you disagree that 121 contacts at your residence is quite a few for the Dickinson Police Department to be coming to your property?
I don't disagree at all. I think the neighbors should quit calling in.
So you think it's because your neighbors are calling you in?
Yes.
Do you disagree that you're trespassed from the residence and you should not be on the property?
I agree that I am trespassed from the property.
And hypothetically, Mr. Dukart, if the commission were to give you additional time to make repairs, what do you have currently in place to make that happen? What assurances can you give them that this is going to happen?
I've already started on the Rafters in the garage, but I want to get with the Fair Roof Trust, they're the ones that designed the rafters, and repair or replace the 6 on the end that need to be taken care of. And I've got all my bills up to date, and I have money, so I can move forward with.
So, Mr. Dukart, in order for you to complete those repairs, you understand that you have to have a building permit, correct?
That's correct. And
Do you understand that the Dickinson Building Department is not going to issue you another building permit?
I understand.
So would it be a fair statement that that's going to be a little difficult for you to make those repairs?
Yes.
I have no more questions for Mr. Dukart.
Thank you, Mrs. Wenko. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Dukart? I just have one. Mr. Dukart, why were the rafters and trusses cut out?
Somebody cut them out and trying to make a bigger room upstairs on the part that goes above the garage door. And it was done without my knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Dukart. Are there any other questions for Mr. Dukart?
Well, their intentions were, I guess, just to sell the property. They didn't want to put any money into it. And I didn't have any money in the bank that I could offer them. I guess so. I mean, I didn't have much contact with them. I just cleaned the property up, and we're trying to sell it. Well, in the beginning, I had a lot of people staying at my place, and there has been nobody around for years. So, well, I don't know how I can do anything without a building permit. I can't be on the property, even allowed on the property, so I don't know what options I have.
Mic turned off there. I know that you're kind of directing the police department calls to your neighbors and kind of blaming them for the police department's 120 plus calls to the property. But looking at this police report, would you say that there was good reason for your neighbors at times to call the police?
I guess I haven't seen the report, and I really don't know what.
Well, I mean, several arrests, several drug-related calls, suspicious people.
No, I guess not in those cases, you know.
Because this is concerning to me, just for the sense of safety of your neighbors and things like that. That they would have concerns, and you would blame them for those concerns.
Well, like there was several people staying at my house at the time, and I'm not in contact with any of those people anymore. None of them are around. So there was people staying there that that didn't pay me rent, and I guess for causing problems.
Any further questions for Mr. Dukart? Thank you, Mr. Dukert. We'll move on to if there are any mortgage or lien holders present that would like to present any evidence or make a statement.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Jason Henderson. I'm appearing as an attorney representing U.S. Bank, who holds a mortgage on this property. And I understand, as the evidence was shown and presented this morning by Ms. Winko, the city's been obviously dealing with issues on this property for a significant amount of time, and I don't have any evidence to contradict anything that's been presented. Realistically, U.S. Bank has made my office aware of the issue this past Friday, January 14th. There haven't been, by being virtually nothing but a mortgage holder, don't have possession of the property, haven't had a legal option to take possession of the property up to this point. And so what I would respectfully request of the commission is that if, based on the evidence presented today, the city does otherwise determine that a demolition is appropriate, that between now and the time the demolition would actually occur, that U.S. Bank, as a mortgage lien interest holder, be afforded a reasonable opportunity of time to go in the property, inspect the property, and make its own determination if it is in a position to take possession of the property and make the repairs that are necessary to bring it into compliance, or if it ultimately agrees with the decision that a demolition is the only realistic option. And that's my respectful request to the commission this morning, based on behalf of the U.S. Bank.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winko, Mr. Schwint, their request.
Mr. President, Commissioners, just so you are all aware, the process is the commission will make a determination and we will issue findings. The property owner has 30 days from the date of issuance to determine whether or not they're going to appeal to the district court. So within that 30 days is what we would anticipate if the commission does go that route for demolition. That inspection would occur within that 30 days. And then if there is some decision by U.S. Bank to come in and remediate the property, we would know within that time frame. And then if that doesn't happen by day 30, then city moves forward with the demo of the structure. But we do have that 30-day window to make that happen if that is a decision of the board.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Winko. Are there any questions by the city attorney for the mortgage or lien holder?
No.
Are there any questions by the property owner for the mortgage or lien holder?
No.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for U.S. Bank representation? Hearing no questions, we'll move to closing arguments for the city attorney.
Mr. President, Commissioners, this property is highly unique in the fact that it has been a problem property for the city of Dickinson for going on a decade and then some. As you heard this morning, the building department has given Mr. Dukert every deference possible to get him to get into compliance. And he's simply chosen not to do anything. And it is a little concerning that Mr. Dukert is sitting here today and placing blame on everyone else but himself. And that is not boding well moving forward into determining what additional remedial repairs can be done to this property. We have heard testimony that this residence has been visited 121 times by the Dickinson Police Department. That is outstanding. That's astonishing in retrospect. And again, Mr. Dukert doesn't seem to think that that's an issue or a problem. We have seen suspicious activity with regard to the criminal activity. Obviously, his neighbors are extremely upset about the structure itself, the outside of the structure, and the fact that there's criminal activity going on in their neighborhood. And it's the city's request that today we move forward with demoing this property. Again, there's been no evidence presented here today by Mr. Dukart that gives the city any reassurance that there's going to be any significant repairs needed to these structures that are going to be completed to the degree that is necessary. And furthermore, Mr. Dukart's already testified, Mr. Dukart is not getting another building permit. And he had an opportunity to sell this property, and he chose not to. And we're just going to kick the can down the road in the event that this property is not demoed. And so for those reasons, I would ask you to affirm the recommendation of the building department and have this structure demoed as soon as possible. Obviously, given the 30-day structure or 30-day window, and the city would not object to U.S. Bank having the right to inspect the property as it was requested. Of course, if in the event that the city does move forward with the demo of this property, understand that the code does provide that the property would be assessed the cost of that demo. Based on all of the evidence and based on no contrary evidence to the otherwise, the city requests to be demoed.
Thank you, Ms. White. Closing arguments from property owner.
I guess there's not much I can do if you won't give me a building permit. But if I was allowed to, say have a year, I could have everything taken care of and have the house remodeled and on the market.
Thank you, Mr. Dukart. Commissioners, discussion? Hearing no discussion, Commissioners, the recommendation from city staff and city legal staff is a recommendation for demolition of the property located at 243 2nd Street southwest of Dickinson, North Dakota 58601. Current property owner Justin Dukart. We have a motion to accept the recommendation for demolition by Commissioner Frederick.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion?
Should we amend this to include the U.S. Bank?
I think that
Portion
is
or
the
just assume?
process.
Okay.
I think that's just the process.
Part of the
'cause
process.
This goes on to,
We will include it in our findings to make a recommendation, and then
Okay.
U.S. Bank can work with the building department to make sure that that happens.
Right, thank you.
we have a motion for demolition with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Commissioner Frederick? Aye. Commissioner Walla?
Aye.
Commissioner Oderman?
Aye.
Commissioner Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Our next hearing on the property at 1520 West Villard is at 10:30 a.m. We will be in recess till 10:30 a.m.
Great. I was looking for those last week.
Two.
I know.
I will, no worries.
Come back here. She goes, well, I said, well, Mom and I said, you have to get while you're in school. This way. You're not in school.
To go back to school.
No. You need the money, the right ticky tack.
Yeah.
But she didn't go back for that.
Yeah.
Transferred in.
Right up to my face. Right, I'm running home.
months are gonna be back? Are you gonna be back?
You can have mine there.
But you're dipping strawberries
You can run it off, come on. So he can help me. Only 81. I mean, they say cloth masks, but really, you look at the stuff. They don't, unless they're really pitted. Oh, this time they're like, he already knows.
Well, they work on the agreement.
Well, they need access. When they cut through the wall. Yeah. The longer we use it. Well, you know, if you have a low amount of power lines in town, you can go up through it, and go up across, and then you know, you go up right down it. There is now,
Oh, I like that word.
I was gonna say something else, but I realized, no. The air exchanges, whenever you make it, though. Yeah, I don't think we had one. No, I asked Terry, I said, wait, did you see what? No, I said, I didn't think so. I was just like, okay, somebody told me something. Usually I notice those things. Did you actually find out? Or you just opened the door and went through it? I asked. But no, I asked you, but I actually asked three people to give us something cost. I'm sure all trucks are good. He said, yeah, we carry that. So you want some too? And so, I don't know. The nicer building is easier because we have stuff. But rated by everything. That one's really good. So long as we don't have a 10%. I think that's a good thing. Commission room has it's brand new. The other ones have at best built it out of business. I got it. This one's going to be a little longer. None two. We're the same.
I left my notes up there. Good to go.
Well, it's still again, it's a. With the big sign that says demo. With the flashing light on it. You're like, ready. In the event that we get the go ahead. Wow. You think we know that? Yeah, I think usually we get a little concerned about some of the ones that because that's There's actually two people on. It's actually laying on the table. Well, but what happens with that first? But not now. We're just like the bank. The bank wants to go in and take it over. They'll have to. Yeah. And then. I mean, it's on dirt and the wall where I don't even know how they're standing. You have kicked them off. Yeah. The only problem is this garage is down. And he was actually yeah. I think that's what. But these people that have to live in there, they actually have sheets up and they were, that's why they were actually nasty in. They had chemicals in them, so they got to have a little ice cones that really save. And I mean, after you go in, you smell it. Yeah. We have the other it's still there, but the house. Well, somebody called. Well, we sent a letter to the owner that our please verify. That's it. They don't have to. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I like the guy who looked at his captain. That was out there. His back. I mean, he was kind of. He came to the door. That would have. Let's stare at it. It was one of those old teardrop looking old ones. But I remember she lived in I mean, there's a I'm like, was I really good? No. It was
You're
I know. Well,
coordinated stuff. It hasn't, a report hasn't been done by office yet. It happened last night at 8 o'clock. I think it's one of the state. On a state.
Call back into order the meeting of the Dickinson City Commission for hearings pertaining to condemnation. Our 10:30 a.m. hearing is for property located at 1520 West Villard. See that there is owner representation here. First item up, the city will present evidence. Ms. Winko.
All right, Mr. Dukart, you are still under oath, so recording, all right? Mr. Dukart, are you familiar with the residence located at 1520 West Villard in Dickinson?
Yes, I am.
Who is the current owner of that property?
Romy and Sky Thompson,
And one of the owners is currently seated to my right,
that's correct.
and that is Ms. Romy Thompson?
That's correct.
Okay. And the other owner is her brother, Sky Thompson?
That's correct.
And you were able to verify the ownership of the properties, I presume, through records with the county recorder's office and such?
Yes, I was.
And you provided a copy of the hearing today, or the hearing notice to Ms. Thompson?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that has been marked Exhibit A?
That's correct.
Do you have a packet? I'm just going to give you a copy. So these are the exhibits. All right, specifically referring to this property, Mr. Dukart, I'm just going to ask you some questions. When was your department first made aware of any concerns with this particular property?
Our involvement with this property started in property maintenance, May of 2017. There was a letter sent out for tall weeds and grass to the owners.
And what it was with regard to the property being unkept with grass and weeds and things of that nature?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's turn to Exhibit B. That May 16th, 2017 letter, is that a copy depicted here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And after that letter was sent in May of 16 of 2017, when did you make contact with the property owner again?
In June of 2018.
Okay. And that would be the next letter in Exhibit B?
That's correct.
Okay. What was the reason for the communication in June 18th of 2018?
Once again, exterior property maintenance, tall weeds and grass.
Okay. When was the next correspondence sent to the property owner?
In June of 2019.
And what was the reason for that violation?
Property maintenance again, tall weeds and grass, exterior of the property.
Were there letters or correspondence sent to the property owner in 2020?
Yes, there were in June of 2020.
What was the reason for that letter being sent?
Property maintenance, weeds, tall weeds and grass, unkept exterior of the structure.
In 2020, in addition to the letter that was sent in June 3rd of 2020, was there an additional correspondence sent to the property owner in 2020?
Yes, in July of 2020, there was another letter sent.
What was the purpose of that letter in July of 2020?
That was also for property maintenance, tall weeds and grass again.
At some point, did you become aware that the water to the property had been turned off?
Yes, our department became aware of that in December of 2020. The water was shut off by the city, and usually we're contacted by the utilities department.
What does the water being shut off indicate to you?
That makes the property uninhabitable, so it becomes unsanitary, and it becomes a dangerous structure, or at least a concern for us to look into the property.
Okay. And when you received that notification, did you send any additional letters to the property owner following up on those issues?
At that time, we did not send a letter out. We sent a letter later that spring.
What did that letter indicate?
That was a letter in April, actually, of 2018. well, the letter was in May, but the call-in was from the fire department in on April 15th of 2020,
What were you notified?
or sorry, 2021.
What was the call from the fire department in regard to?
They had been called to the address due to call-in for broken windows and a door wide open. So our standard procedure is to do a personal inspection of the property. So our department, myself included, did a follow-up and did photographs and documented what was seen at the property.
And that would have been mid-year of 2021?
That's correct,
Okay.
April 15th, 2021.
All right. What, after that occurs, do you see any repairs or remedial action taken by the landowner to address those concerns?
I was contacted by one of the owners, Ms. Thompson, and she proceeded to locate a contractor that could board up the property and secure it.
Okay, and so for everybody's reference here, what we're seeing, and get the lights, please. Okay. The first structure here, early 2021, and then I believe what you said, the property had been boarded up. That's what we're seeing in the second picture here where it says current 2021?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And after you had informed the property owner that the property needed to be boarded up, did you send any follow-up correspondence to the property owners?
The next correspondence was June of 2021 for property maintenance, again, for exterior property maintenance, weeds and grass.
Okay. And that would have been marked as Exhibit C in your packet?
That's correct.
And that letter that was included with Exhibit C, there's a photograph in there that is dated June 29th of 2021. And I notice on there that there is a yellow sign that's been posted on the structure. What does that indicate?
That's a placard for condemnation from our department. It was, the owner was notified of that in the June 29th letter, that we will be placarding the building and proceeding with the condemnation process. So we take photographs of our placards that we put up on the structures to make sure that nobody enters the property unless we're contacted.
Were there any remedial efforts made to the property in response to your June 29th, 2021 letter?
Not after that point, no.
At some point, do you make the determination that you need to send a notice of demolition?
Yes, we did actually in August of 2021.
And that would be marked Exhibit D?
That's correct, Exhibit D.
Mr. Dukart, since 2017, have you observed any major improvements regarding this property?
No, our department has not.
What conditions, well, let's look at the photographs here. What are we observing in the top left-hand corner?
Those are one of the that is one of the photographs that I took personally on April 15th of 2021 after a call in from the fire department for concerns of open doors and broken windows. That is interior of one of the rooms, and then the lower left is a photo of a broken window, and the photograph right beside that's also broken windows, and then of course the one on the right side is an open door that was kicked in along with the broken window right beside it.
And to your knowledge, other than these doors and windows being boarded up, the property currently sits in this condition?
That's correct, to our knowledge.
Okay. And what do these photographs depict?
Those are depictions, all of them different years, photographs taken for tall grass and weeds. We actually photograph all of them and put them on file whenever we send a code enforcement letter out for property maintenance violation, tall grass and weeds.
Okay. And would you say that since 2017, the property has historically been cited for property maintenance issues?
Yes, that's correct.
Just in summary then, Mr. Dukart, what are the major concerns for your department with regard to the determination that this building is a dangerous structure?
The fact that the dilapidation and deterioration of the exterior of the building, we're not sure what all the interior rooms look like, but with no potable water and the water being shut off for quite some time now, actually a year, and no property or structural maintenance or improvements have been made, so we deem this building a dangerous structure and a public nuisance.
What is your recommendation this morning for the commission?
The City of Dickinson Building Department recommends demolition of this property.
I have no more questions. I have no more questions for Mr. Dukart.
Thank you, Mrs. Wenko. At this time, the property owner may ask any questions of our witness. Do you have any?
I don't, but I do have some packets to hand out to all of you.
Okay, we'll wait till the next section. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Dukart? Hearing no questions, Ms. Wenko, do you have additional witnesses?
I do, Mr. President. At this time, the city is going to call Lieutenant Matt Hansen. Lieutenant? Lieutenant, you are familiar with the property located at 1520 West Villard?
Yes, I am.
And explain for the commission how you are familiar with this property.
As a patrol officer, I had actually responded to this residence back in 2016-17 timeframe. Different calls for service, and then as requested by you and your office, I completed a report dating back from 2014 to current, and contacts my office and the Dickinson Police Department had with this residence.
Okay. Just before we get to that, you heard Mr. Dukart's testimony regarding an incident where the fire department was called to the residence?
I heard that, yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with that as well?
When I was looking at my files here, I show we were there twice last year. One of those times was actually myself was there. That would have been the February 2nd of 2021. That particular call, it was received, I believe it was from Miss Thompson's father's shell. I might be misspeaking on that, but he had called and said that he had received information that somebody might have been inside of the structure. Myself, along with other officers, had gone into the structure, making sure there was nobody there. I had a conversation with Mr. Shell at the time, telling him he needed to secure this building because there was several doors that were unsecured, broken windows and such. And then it was a couple of months later, I believe it was in May, that we had another report that there was people inside this one. They actually found juveniles inside of the structure. And I believe that was around the same time frame that the fire department had been reaching out to the city as far as to try to get the property secured. And it was shortly after that time frame that's when you see the current state where you're seeing the boarded windows and doors and such.
And I did ask you to run a report today.
Correct.
And based on your report, Lieutenant, according to your records, how many times has the police department been called from 2014 to current? How many times has the Dickinson Police Department been called to this residence?
45 times is what our records show.
Is that high? Is that an unusual number?
To put into detail, I guess, on some of these calls for service here, in 2016 and 17, there was an individual living on the premises. I believe he was living on like the west end of the property. It's shaped a little bit like a horseshoe, but he was on the west end of the property, and he was an individual who suffered from some mental health situations, and he was kind of an addict in sorts. So we had an uptick of numbers while he was on scene. But it is a higher number than you would see at like a different hotel or a different restaurant or something along those lines.
I have no further questions for Lieutenant Hansen.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Does property owner have any questions for Lieutenant Hansen?
Other than speaking with Shell Thompson, did you ever speak with anybody else? I don't recall ever speaking with you. And I'm not even aware of any calls, the last couple calls we were talking about. So, did you speak with anybody else?
So the one from February, and then I believe it's the one from May also, both of those ones. In our system, we were showing Shell Thompson as the caller and Shell Thompson as the owner of the residence. So he was the one we had been speaking with, at least on those two occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Deeper into the, back before that, it's 2018 and 2017. I couldn't say, I guess, who specifically we had spoke with, but those two I know, Shell Thompson.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Lieutenant Hansen? No questions? Does City Council have any further witnesses?
No, Mr. President.
All right, we will then move, since the city has concluded with their evidence and witnesses, we'll move to the property owner. Ms. Thompson, you said you had some packets?
I do.
Yep, no.
You can proceed with presenting your evidence.
Good morning. I'm Romy Thompson. Sky Thompson and I own the property located at 1520 West Villard. Some of you may be familiar with me in name only because for many years my father, Shell Thompson, oversaw the properties in Dickinson that my brother and I co-own. I had always trusted that my father would make sound decisions with his children's best interest in mind. In October 2020, I drove to Dickinson from my home in New Orleans, as I flew here for this, from New Orleans, to see the state of my various properties, including 1520 West Villard. I found out firsthand that Shell Thompson not only had not had his children's best interest in mind, but he had also been representing himself as an owner of the property and properties. With this realization, I met with multiple departments and businesses, including the City of Dickinson Building Department. It was at that time that Mr. Schwind informed me that over the years, the building department had sent multiple code violation letters addressed to Sky and me, mailed to Shell Thompson's address in California. I was unaware that there were any issues with the property until that moment, speaking with Mr. Schwind. Shell Thompson no longer represents or speaks for me in matters pertaining to my property holdings. I strive to build good relationships with communities, to work with city and county officials, to improve not only my properties, but the cities they're located in as well. Dickinson has been no exception since that trip in October 2020. I've been working with the building department since the fall of 2020. I've been in frequent email communication with Mr. Ducart regarding this condemnation process. I took the necessary steps to secure the building to prevent any more issues with vandalism and vagrancy as soon as I was notified. Since this past summer, the property has been listed with the local agent, Gina Warner. There has been some interest locally, but no real offers have materialized. In November 2021, I was approached by Marcus and Millichap, the #1 commercial real estate investment sales brokerage and capital markets advisory in North America. Initially, their national hospitality division was very interested in marketing and selling 1026 West Villard, known as the Oasis Inn. After several meetings, conversations, and information exchanges, Marcus and Millichap's Miller Gomes hotel team have agreed to represent Sky Thompson and me with the marketing, listing, and selling of both 1520 West Villard and the Oasis Inn as a package deal. Marcus and Millichap have the resources, clout, and confidence to market and sell 1520 West Villard to an audience of prospective buyers throughout North America. While it may seem that buyer interest in the property is lackluster on a small scale, it's quite opposite on a national level. There's great interest and desire to have a stake in the city of Dickinson. I've been in negotiations for several months with Tzique Management Group to purchase the Oasis Inn. Last week, I received a letter of intent from them for that purchase. They've also expressed a desire in purchasing 1520 West Villard and are seriously considering buying both properties in a bundled sale. I'm asking you not to demolish the building at 1520 West Villard. Demolishing the building would further devalue the property and hinder our ability to sell the property to an investor who has the resources and ability to revitalize the property in a continued effort to work with and improve the city of Dickinson for its citizens. In your folder, you'll find a timeline, an invoice for securing the property, a letter and non-disclosure agreement from Marcus and Millichap, and the letter of intent to purchase from Tzique Management Group. I respectfully request that I'm allowed the opportunity to achieve our shared goals of continuing to improve the city of Dickinson and turning blighted properties into successful properties that we can all be proud of. And I want to reiterate that Shell Thompson was falsely presenting himself as the owner of these properties. And therefore, by trusting him and having the faith that he would manage them properly, and he's my father, I was wrong. But I had no knowledge that there were phone calls to the police department and any major issues until October 2020. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Mrs. Winko, do you have any questions for the property owner?
Ms. Thompson, again, thank you for appearing today and providing us this information. Just a few questions for you. Did your father, at some point with regard to these properties in Dickinson, did you give him a power of attorney at some point?
A long time ago, but that has long since been revoked.
Okay. He had authority at some point, but you have since terminated it?
Yes.
Okay. The documentation that you have in your packet here, specifically regarding the letter of intent that's dated January 12th?
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but this one is just for 1026 West Villard Street, which is the Oasis?
Correct. But I just received that, as you mentioned, on the 12th of January, and I've spoken with the agent since then. They are interested in adding other properties, but they wanted to get a letter of intent out for the first property, and we're working on adding the other ones.
So as of today's date, you do not have a letter of intent from this property management company with regard to 1520 West Villard?
Not yet.
You are requesting that the property not be torn down. Is it your testimony here then that the current structure in this condition can be repaired?
According to the brokerage firm I've been speaking with, they feel strongly that it can be repaired. I don't have knowledge one way or the other. I don't have a building background. But after showing them photos and explaining to them the condition of the property, and they're aware of the hearing today, they feel confident that they can bundle the two properties together and market them to interested parties who can revitalize them.
Did they give you a time frame in which they think that this can happen?
It should be in the letter. I believe that they noted several different time frames. They move very quickly. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that firm, but Marcus and Millichap is a publicly traded company. They're highly respected, and this particular hotel team were the biggest producers in the national firm.
So this I guess, marketing agreement, but also specifically referring to the letter of intent, there is an inspection period for 60 days, and then the closing is to take place 90 days thereafter that. Has any earnest money or anything like that been put down with regard to that particular purchase?
Not yet, like I said. I mean, this is barely a week old at this point, and then we had the holiday. So, and my partner, my brother, lives in San Francisco, and this group is in, the interested buyer is in Florida, and the agent is in South Dakota. So we're dealing with 4 different states and trying to get everybody on the same page at the same time, which we are on the same page in terms of selling the property. It just seems to take a little bit longer in various time zones and states.
I have no more questions at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Commissioners, do you have any questions for property owner?
It's unsigned. I just received it, and I flew in from New Orleans, so I have not signed it yet because my intent is to sign it.
As is, or revised with the 2 properties bundled?
Revised with the 2 properties. As I mentioned, that's what we are working towards.
So the city attorney has kind of laid out a timeline. To me, that's 5 months. Time period is what you're looking at, 60 and 90 days.
Right.
Time period to execute this.
I would
ask Mr. Dukart, I want to ask Mr. Dukart or Mr. Schwint, looking at that property, can it be rehabbed? In your opinion, as it stands?
I have not physically been on the property, but based on the photos and the lack of maintenance on the property, to say that anything can be rehabbed, but as far as putting that expense into this, whether it's worth it or not, it would be a stretch, I believe.
Commissioner Oderman, you had a question?
Well, and this is without any type of legal battle between your father and yourself. Is there any possibility that something like that could rear its head?
A legal battle?
Yeah. I mean, he's been representing himself as the owner for quite some time
Well,
in a lot of different community settings.
yes.
And so is there any possibility that could get in the way of that 5-month time frame as well?
Actually, we are currently in litigation, and my brother and I are in the process of negotiating, dissolving our partnership, and liquidating all our assets, the properties in Dickinson included. but there is a suit against Shell Thompson by me for gross mismanagement. That has been ongoing, but as to the property, Sky and I have been working together and have the same goal in mind to liquidate and move on.
So your lawsuit won't hold up any transactions of you
No.
dissolving your...
No,
your-
no, not at all.
Mr. President, I do have a follow-up question to that question. Ms. Thompson, just so we're clear and I understand the complexities of your litigation, are you suing your brother?
No, I'm not suing my brother. I'm suing my father.
Okay. So is there any concern that we don't have a signed letter of intent, that for some reason your brother wouldn't sign on to this as the
No.
other co-owner?
No, there's no reason for that. We recently had a settlement conference, and it lasted all day, and we're hashing out what we wanted to do with the properties. We are both in agreement to selling. Sky has also been in contact with the Tizzy Management Group, and we've been negotiating together for several months now. And as I mentioned, they are very interested in purchasing 1520 West Bard as well, along with the Oasis. No, there should not be any opposition from Sky.
And just so we're clear, Ms. Thompson, this is strictly a letter of intent. There have been no purchase agreements signed with regard to this property, correct?
Correct.
And according to this, they have 60 days to...
They have to
60 days.
sign the purchase agreement, and then the purchaser has 60 days commencing on the
All right.
execution of the purchase agreement to complete its due diligence and inspection period.
Mr. Schwint or Mr. Dukart, say the sale did proceed, do you see anything within that, on those properties that would not make the city want to issue a permit for rehabilitation?
Based on these procedures, this is actually new to us. The letter of intent came in last moment here. This has been going on for some time again, just like the previous properties. At some point in time, we have to pull the trigger, and I believe the building department has done that. If we had documents in our office or a plan, site plan, building plans as far as a company's intent to move forward with this property, we'd be looking at it in a different way. I'd like to be hopeful that this property could be rehabbed, but based on how we need to move forward with our procedures, and so this doesn't turn into another decade property, we'd like, our stance is that this property should move forward with demolition. With the procedure set forth, if something does come to our office, we will look at it.
President Decker.
Mr. Oderman?
So on June 14th, 2021 and July 6th, 2021, property owners were contacted about the overgrown grass and weeds. Was that you that was contacted, Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Okay.
And you should be able to see in the timeline,
Yep.
and Mr. Dukart could speak to this too. We have spoken extensively, that as soon as I was notified by the building department of any violation for weeds or otherwise, it was remedied within 24
Yep.
hours, 48 hours at the most.
Okay. So have you been contacted regarding overgrown grass and weeds since 2017?
No.
Okay, so who did the city deal with in the past, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Dukart? Was that Shell? Mr. Thompson?
The letters did go to Mr. Thompson and Shell Thompson, and he was, I guess, frequent the city offices to go over ideas. So yes, he was one of the people that was communicated with. However, the last letters would have went out to, I believe, Sky and Ron Thompson.
Well, but we have letters here from 2017, 2018, and 2019 that went to Rami and Sky as well. Did you not receive those?
No, I haven't lived in California in 16 years.
Okay.
And so the address that
Modesto, California?
apparently the city has had was the address that Shell provided. And again, I had trusted him to manage things appropriately and well, but was shocked to find out that not only did he not manage them well, he ran them into the ground.
So was your first visit to Dickinson ever October 2020?
No, I was here in 2017, and then not again until 2020.
Okay. What state were the, what was the building, was it 1520?
1520 West Boulevard.
What state was that in when you were here in 2017? Because I mean, this has been a fairly ongoing.
I understand that. For
Yeah.
all of you, of course, it's been ongoing. For me, I have not been aware of it for very long. Again, Mr. Dukart could attest to that. The state of the building, I'm trying to remember. I don't recall it being in terrible state. Again, this would have been in early 2017. And I'm not sure if there was anybody living there.
Okay.
I didn't spend any time at the property. I passed through, so.
Sure. And then, you know, if the purchase agreement were to be signed and executed upon and things like that, we're looking at a 5-month time frame for the exchange of ownership. What can we look for in terms of any work being done on this location? Because I mean, I understand that if it's off of your books, that's great, you can walk away from it, but if we have this management group that purchases it, are we going to be in the same situation a year from now where there's been no work done on it and we're looking at talking about demolition with a new owner?
Well, I mean, I can't foresee the future, but I would say that it is in their best interest, and they've expressed that they would rehab the building, and they have the capital to do it. So they have the financing to purchase everything and the capital. It's a company that has multiple properties across multiple states. And again, that here in Dickinson recently purchased the Bullard Commons, so next to the Oasis Inn. I don't think that you would have any issue with them, since again, they have an interest and a desire to have a stake in the city of Dickinson on Bullard.
Okay.
Yes. It is actually actively listed currently here with Gina Warner. There's a sign up front. The property. Talking about what? Right. No, that's something that has just come about in this past week.
Nick? Why is the listing agreement January 7th? The letter of intent.
Two different entities. The letter of intent is from Tazik Management Group. Again, they purchased.
Which owns the building next door, I'm assuming?
Right, formerly Blue Hawk Square. The disclosure and letter from Marcus and Millichap is the real estate firm that contacted me about the Oasis and 15 West Bullard and 1520 West Bullard. This particular group deals exclusively with smaller hotels and motels. and not just national chains, but also just independently owned businesses. Mhm.
So what's your intent? You can sign the letter of intent? Listing.
I'm going to sign the letter of intent and hopefully continue to work with them. What I've been looking at is trying to see what my options are and to have several different options. So if for some reason it doesn't work out with Tzazik Management Group, Marcus and Millichap is more than willing to list both properties together and are highly confident that they could find a buyer who would come in and renovate, rehabilitate the property at 1520. But I would be remiss if I didn't have a backup option with them.
It just seems awfully convenient that since we notified you on the 28th of this hearing, all of a sudden we've got a letter of intent and a possible listing agreement. I mean, why hasn't that been looked at long ago? Or
Actually, it has been looked at long ago. In November 2020, Shell Thompson started to speak with Michael Martin, who is the agent for Tzazik Management Group. I did not become aware of this until later in 2021, when they bought the building next door, Blue Hawk Square, and there was an issue with shared common space. And at that point, Shell had no choice but to contact me and tell me that the building had been purchased next door and I needed to sign, along with Sky, an agreement over the common space. I'm sure that several of you are familiar with the issue there with the 9 feet in the building. Since then, I have stayed in communication with Michael Martin, the agent out of South Dakota, who represents Tzazik Management Group, and Sky has as well, and we've been negotiating back and forth about the Oasis and 1520 West Villard. It was Michael Martin's feeling that he wanted to get out some kind of letter of intent, and at least the initial one to start with the Oasis. He is currently talking with Tzazik Management about adding the Oasis and possibly the Amadon and parking lots across the street from the Oasis. So you might find it convenient that it's dated right after the 28th, the letter on the 28th, but this has been going on for some time. And again, Marcus and Millichap contacted me in November. So I've been working with both groups, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with what happens when Shell Thompson gets involved in something. He tends to muddy the waters at best, and it makes it very difficult. So since fall of 2020, I've been being brought up to speed again by Mr. Dukart. Been in communication, been responsive immediately whenever there is an issue, and trying to remedy all of this, not only for myself, but so there isn't a blighted property at 1520 West Villard.
Are there any additional questions, Commission? Staff, any additional questions? Hearing none. move forward with if there are any mortgage or lien holders present who wishes to make a statement. There are no mortgage or lien holders present to make a statement or question witnesses, so we'll move to closing arguments by the city attorney.
So, with all due deference to Ms. Thompson, and I will admit and say that she is in a little bit of a unique situation here, given the circumstances surrounding her father's involvement in these properties. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Thompson was acting as an agent and was giving information and correspondence to the city departments with regard to these properties. And the state of the property hasn't changed since 2017, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's only gotten worse. And property is boarded up. It's not habitable. It is, as far as the buildings department is concerned, unlikely to be repaired in any reasonable circumstance that's not going to require a lot of expense. As far as the documentation that Ms. Thompson has submitted, again, want to appreciate her efforts in trying to get something on the table for the city, but the reality is this is not a binding agreement. The letter of intent clearly states it's not binding on either party. No party is required to pursue any negotiations or any obligations. It's all hypothetical. And while we hope something happens with this property, because quite frankly, I think everybody's probably tired of looking at it in its current condition, there's nothing in here that gives us a plan of action. There's nothing in here that says this property is going to be addressed within a certain time frame, or here's what we can expect to see. So the city has concerns with regard to that. As Mr. Schwinn indicated, we don't want another decade property here. You know, this has been going on for quite some time, and it needs to be remedied, and the city is requesting, based on the information presented today, that it be demoed. And much like the situation with Mr. Ducart's property, there is a 30-day notice period and appeal period between when the findings are signed and approved, whichever way you go, for things to happen. So hypothetically, if the commission did vote to demo the structure, 30 days to appeal that decision. Could something happen and come back with a signed purchase agreement within 30 days and the city could reevaluate? Absolutely, that is totally feasible. But for right now, I think that there needs to be something that holds someone's feet to the fire to say that steps are going to be made and steps are going to be taken, because if we do nothing and this doesn't happen, we're going to be right back here again asking for the same remedy that we're asking for right now. And that's what I'm asking you to prevent, and that's why I'm asking you to affirm the recommendation from the building department that this structure be demoed.
Thank you, Mrs. Wanko. Property owner, do you have any closing statements?
Well, Ms. Winko might think it's hypothetical. It's actually not. Again, what I'm presenting to you is what I have. I will be signing the letter of intent. I will be, along with Sky, having Marcus and Millichap at the same time market the property as a backup. So if that apparently needs to happen sooner rather than later, I'll be more than happy to get those signed documents to the commission to support that.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Commissioners, discussion, any further questions?
Mr. President, the concern that I would have here is that the letter of intent does not include the property that is in question here. And we have no evidence that Sadiq, is that how you say it? Is interested in that property in its dilapidated condition. I think it's going to be probably very hard to market that property. And I guess I would agree with Attorney Wanko that we could grant, but we could not move on this today. But I think we likely, very to a high level of likelihood, will find ourselves potentially in this exact same situation in the future. I would love for that not to be the case, but this thing's been an eyesore for 5 years, well, longer than that. And I think we need to do something today, not just to put this behind us, but also for those property owners in the area, that their property valuations are being impacted by this property, and do what we can to raise the aesthetic appeal of Dickinson for future development.
Thank you, Mr. Oderman. Any other comments, commissioners? Not, I would look then for a motion on this property.
So moved.
Yeah, you have a recommendation for demolition, Mr. Oderman?
Yep.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Oderman to follow up on the recommendation for demolition. Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion, commissioners? Again, just to remind the property owner, there is a 30-day window for appeal. Hearing no further discussion or comments, we will vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick? Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. That brings this condemnation meeting of the City Commission.
For purposes of what needs to happen now, there's one extra step. So the code requires the commission to issue written findings. And so I will put together for each property a written list of those findings, and then you all have to approve them. So typically what we would do is I would have those available at the next meeting on the, I think it's the 3rd, but I will not be present at that meeting, so I would prefer to have them discussed at a meeting in which I will be present. So probably going to be the 2nd meeting in February. Well, we will just briefly go through it at the City Commission. You'll have an opportunity to review it ahead of time, just make sure that everything in there is a correct resuscitation of your findings in these matters. And then once that is signed, that is what gets sent to the property owner, and that's what starts that 30-day appeal period.
So they're actually getting additional time.
A little bit, yes.
They're actually, you're getting a month.
45.
Yeah, you're getting 45 days.
Yep.
So,
And if for some reason there is a purchase agreement signed by these particular property owners, you know, I think Mr. Schwint and Mr. Dukart would certainly listen to that and see if that changes anything. But for right now, if the vote is to move to demo, that is what the city will do.
and that is what it is right now. So
Correct.
what passed, so. Okay, anything else?
No, Mr. President, thank you.
All right, look for a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
Do you have an? We have.